Now, you're a Philly guy. You're working with one of the best up and coming fighters, not only in Philly, but in boxing, and Jaron Ennis that we mentioned previously. How did that relationship come about, and how did you two start working together?
Well, no, I've known the family for a while.
Nice.
I've known his father for a while. I was actually a fan of his older brother, Derek Ennis. We call his name is Pooh.
Okay.
But I was a big fan of his. Even growing up watching him box, I was so mesmerized by his hand speed and everything else. And it just to around 2013, 14, we all started helping each other. I was getting ready for a fight locally. And then 2014, I actually had an opportunity to fight in Puerto Rico, and his dad was the coach of the team. So Boots came out with us, and I ended up building a little bond with him. And when I opened the gym, Philly Boxing 101, they were looking for a home since their dwelling wasn't doing so well, wasn't holding up as much. And so they came over, they gave the gym a shot, they trained there for the day, and Boots said that's where he wanted to be. And I ended up becoming the strength coach.
Welcome back to the RBR Recap, presented by Round Boxing. I am Alex Burgos, joined today by a very special guest, strength and conditioning coach, Rob Acosta. Rob, how are you, sir?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing well, thank you. Thanks for taking the time out to join us. We know you're a busy man. We see you in the background there, training one of your fighters.
This is my amateur. You got a fight coming up.
We wanted to jump in and talk to you. You work with one of this show's favorite up-and-coming fighters in Jaron Ennis, and we'll get to that as well. But I want to give you the floor to talk a little bit about what strength and conditioning is, how long you've been in the game and that type of stuff to educate our viewers.
Okay. So I've been doing strength and conditioning for professional fighters since 2007. Worked with a lot of the Philly guys. I worked with a couple guys outside of the local area. Been doing it since, like I said, 2007. So primarily a lot of my clients are professional fighters. I have worked with other athletes and outside of the sport, like basketball, football, baseball, and things like that. And I've worked with MMA fighters as well.
Nice. Now, do you have a preference? Is there? I'm assuming there's a difference if you're working with, a boxer versus an MMA fighter or a basketball player. Do you have a preference, a sport?
I do. I prefer the boxing, just because when I was boxing, I boxed since I was like 15.
Nice.
And then had some, misfortune and events that occurred, and I was able to fall back from the sport a little bit and then go into strength and conditioning.
Nice. Now, you're a Philly guy. You're working with one of the best up-and-coming fighters, not only in Philly, but in boxing, and Jaron Ennis that we mentioned previously. How did that relationship come about, and how did you two start working together?
Well, no, I've known the family for a while.
Nice.
I've known his father for a while. I was actually a fan of his older brother, Derek Ennis. We call his name is Pooh.
Okay.
But I was a big fan of his. Even growing up watching him box, I was so mesmerized by his hand speed and everything else. And it just around 2013, 14, we all started helping each other. I was getting ready for a fight locally. And then 2014, I actually had an opportunity to fight in Puerto Rico, and his dad was the coach of the team. So Boots came out with us, and I ended up building a little bond with him. And when I opened the gym, Philly Boxing 101, they were looking for a home since their dwelling wasn't doing so well, wasn't holding up as much. And so they came over, they gave the gym a shot, they trained there for the day, and Boots said that's where he wanted to be. And I ended up becoming the strength coach.
Nice. So it's a family affair, you could say.
Yeah, you could say that.
All right. Now, talk to us about your gym. You mentioned, if I'm a fighter and I'm in the local area and I wanna train with you or work with you, what would I need to do? Do I come into your gym? Do you work with certain types of fighters, or how does that work?
No, so I mean, if you wanted to work with me, then we set up our appointments. But if you wanted to come in and train and use the facility, then that's another thing. So a lot of the coaches, they set their own prices, they set their own times and everything else. So, if a person wants to come in and they want to get educated, whether it being on competitional level or just general fitness, they just have to clear that up and the day of the meet on the consultation. And then once they finish doing that, and it's however it goes from there. It's not those type of gyms where it's commercial like, and everybody's in the line and in the pairs of, four across and four deep.
Right.
It's not like that. It's an actual world-class type of gym. It's a great atmosphere. There's over 150 years of experience with teaching and boxing and everything else in that gym, just with the coaches alone. So it's a very, very great atmosphere. No one steps on anybody's toes. Everybody is very family oriented. We joke around. It's kind of like a barbershop atmosphere, but for the boxers.
Yeah, that sounds very cool. Now, we see the end result when Boots or, other fighters you work with, when they get into the ring. But, the age-old adage with boxing is what you see, that product that you see in the ring, it's done weeks and months before, the training, the strength and conditioning, stuff like that. What would you say working with Boots is like? I mean, for him to be such a high-level fighter and athlete.
When we prepare for fights, we prepare for anything. Doesn't matter what it is, doesn't matter who it is. We prepare for any situation, any type of fighter that's on the opposite side of ours. So we just get ready for it. It just also helps out that he's a very great athletic type of person. So that also, helps. It's like a plus, but everybody has a great part in the team, and it takes a whole team to make a championship. You know what I mean?
Who are some of the other guys that you work with? I see, on your Instagram, you have a lot of different posts with a lot of different fighters, but currently, is there anyone that?
Tomorrow night, actually, at 2300 Arena in Philly, South Philly, we got Tamir Smalls, who's a 147-pounder that we're working with. He'll be fighting his 8th fight. He's a force to be reckoned with, and slowly will climb up the ranks really quick, and then he'll just come out of left field. Then we got also another rising superstar, John Carlos. He should be fighting here at the Fillmore in Philadelphia at July 16th. We're trying to grab Christian Cardo a date, Joshua Jones, get him a date, and just wait for everybody else to get dates. You know what I mean? Just waiting on specific guys and see where it goes.
Very nice. Yeah. So you mentioned a lot of names that we're familiar with, a lot of up and comers. That's very cool. Now, you mentioned you had a part in boxing yourself. You came up fighting. So I could assume that you're a boxing fan, right?
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, like there's days that even at the gym now. So if we're doing defense drills and they need a man, I throw my gloves on and I just do the defense drill. So it's not like I'm a strength coach that doesn't know what he's talking about. You know what I mean? Like I've done the sport. I still do the sport. And, I enjoy it very much.
That's something I was going to say. It's got to be a plus for the team that boxing so well, because a lot of times you'll get people that come from another world and they come in and they're like, they're trying to apply their knowledge to a game that they don't know. But it sounds like you're fully immersed in it and have been for a while. So what I was going to ask you was that if you had your choice, out of all the fighters that are active now, maybe someone that you haven't gotten the chance to work with, is there someone out there that you would like to work with?
Whether being female or anyone?
Yeah, anything.
I would like to work with Xander Zayas. I would like to work with Berlinga. I would like to work with Alicia Baumgartner. I would like to work with Amanda Serrano, Clarissa as well. It's a few people, man.
It's hard to name just one. Yeah.
I like to work with Tefimo. Yeah, it's a couple guys out there. But see, also, I know a lot of the guys that I would like to mention, I necessarily can't because I know who they work with.
Okay, yeah, that's fair.
I don't want to cross any
Step
lines.
on any toes. Yeah, that's fair. But that's a heavy hitting list. So we'll put the PSA out there for some of our friends that are watching this show and see what comes of it. But definitely, I wanted to also ask you. This is always like I guess, an argument or a conversation. If power is God given or if it can be cultivated, and I don't know if you have an opinion on that. Like, can a guy come in and say, I don't have very good power. Can you cultivate that, or can you make me stronger?
There's a difference between having knockout power and just explosive power. So it's a rare case where a person has technically both. Mm-hmm. So you got people who are naturally strong that can put you out with 1 or 2 shots, the one hitter quitters. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? But then you got other guys who are actually really strong and they can break you down throughout the course of a fight and then actually get the knockout. You know what I mean? So I think that's something that's that you can't just develop knockout power out of nowhere. You know what I mean? It just doesn't happen that way. So what happens is 4 more. So what happens is, a person can train their movements to where you're generating power by twisting the torso, stepping into the shots, working on your tricep muscles, shoulders, chest, anything along those lines can help out with enough impact. But now we're talking about if you have just enough force and you could develop the speed, then you're running into a situation where you can use the opponent's momentum and then score a knockout and not even try. You understand what I'm saying? Yeah. So it's kind of like Floyd Mayweather is a perfect example to be used because he's fast and he's strong, but he got a nice pop to his punches. But if you get hit with 17, 18 of those same shots in the same spot, he's going to break you down.
Right.
But then if you got a guy like Tank Davis who hits you one time on the right spot, you're going out. So it all depends, man. I mean, to answer your question, I don't think you can develop knockout power, but you can definitely develop enough strength that'll help benefit everything else that's adjacent to it.
Now, if you were a fighter, if you were a pro fighter and you had one or the other, is there something that you would prefer? Would you prefer that one hitter quitter power, or would you prefer, the ability to know how to break it down?
Don't get me wrong. What I'm going to say is always going to be one of those type of arguing or debating type of responses. Mm-hmm. But having knockout power is also fantastic because, you're just that strong. You become very feared and no one wants to get hit with something too crazy. I don't care who it is. No one likes to get punched. It's just not something that we're okay with, even as a fighter. So like, even though you're okay with knowing you're going to get punched, no one's okay with getting punched. Mm-hmm. You understand what I'm saying? Yep. So for me, if it was up to me, I go with skill over power because you got more fighters in the past and statistically that will get hit with lucky shots and they get hit what we call on the butt and then they go to sleep. You know what I mean? But they were either winning the fight or they were losing the fight. But it happens. Now, if you're dealing with someone who is incredibly skilled with every aspect of the game, then I'd rather choose the skilled fighter because it just shows the caliber of level of IQ that you are in that ring. So if you beat a person unanimously and it made it just look that much easy, then it just shows you don't need to be on the same level or even share the same ring. It's an honor to share the same ring, but it's like you can't really compete with me. You know what I mean? And I'd rather show you that way rather than going for a one-hitter quitter. And then it's like, all right, now the next fight happens. That's not happening the same way. Now it goes the distance. You know what I mean? So I'd rather be the guy to go for the skill.
The skill. Yeah, very interesting. Now, I want to ask you something real quick on a fighter you mentioned, Edgar Berlinga, who we know, the monster, the chosen one. He's made his name off of the power of the knockout streak. But as of late, it seems like he, has gotten stuck with that label and maybe has relied too much on his power. What do you think, like, if you were, to work with him, I mean, just from an outside perspective, is there something that you think that maybe he's missing or needs to work on?
No, I mean, in all honesty, that's why they moved him in a specific pace and you can't knock everyone out. Mm-hmm. So when you go up in certain ranks, you now have to be tested, or there's what is there to prove. So he is being tested, and even though the caliber of opponents that he is facing is a little bit more on the on another end, but he is decreasing in a lot of his abilities. Now, he can box. Like, he showed in the last fight against Angulo that he can box. Like, he showed a little bit of those abilities. But what I believe could be a possibility is that, you know, they moved him a lot faster than what his levels portrayed out to be. You know what I mean? And that happens. But there's nothing you could do now. It's too late. So what I would do is try to bring in something where he can either go back to the fundamentals and learn how to, you know, get the cut off the ring, go back to that aspect, you know, basically going back to where he was, like in the amateurs, but not an amateur style. Right. You know, just go back to the fundamentals. Let's get the mojo back. You know what I mean? Where you're now cutting off the ring, you're establishing everything behind the jab. Everything is not, you're not relying on that right hand all the time, and you're setting up your punches. You're kind of like tapping the opponent however way you can tap them, and then start sitting on the heavy shots once you find an opening. You know what I mean? Things like that he's not doing. And I think it's either he's forgetting about it or he's not working on it enough.
Definitely. And he's had some changes within his camp as of late, but you're saying a lot of the same stuff. That could be
another thing. You know, it's very difficult to keep switching trainers and things like that. And it makes it difficult. It makes it really difficult. You know what I mean? Not every trainer can fit every style.
Definitely. Yeah. You're saying a lot of the same stuff because we've talked about this at length on this podcast. A lot of the things going back to the basics and maybe even getting him out of the spotlight where he's not headlining. He's not the main guy right now. Let him develop on undercards and things like that. And then that other stuff will come, but very interesting. And we'd love to see if you're able to work with him, that would be very cool as well. So just wrapping it up now. We do appreciate your time. I want to let you tell everyone, where can they follow you? Your gym, all that good stuff. Give that information out.
So you can reach out to me at on Instagram at IamAlchemy_TSW. You can follow the gym at Philly Boxing 101. I don't know how to work my Twitter yet, so I don't know how that works. But I'm trying to get some help to help somebody use that. If anybody has questions, concerns, he can reach out to me even on email of IamAlchemyTSW@gmail.com. Anybody that, wants any tips, advice, or just wants to have a general conversation about specifics, we can do that. I'm very open. I just don't give out secrets. I don't give out business. My job is to get fighters in shape. So if anyone's intentions is to find out who Boots is fighting next or who Ta's fighting next, I don't ask those questions. My job is to get the phone call, get them in shape, get them out of there.
Most definitely. Yeah. Well, it's been great talking to you. A lot of great information. I hope our listeners, I know they'll get a lot out of what you're saying. And so we definitely look forward to you continuing to work with fighters. And obviously, like I mentioned before, one of our favorites, Jaron Boots Ennis, and we'll continue to watch his rise in the ranks as well. But we really appreciate your time, Rob.
No, thank you so much for your time, man. And, shout out to you and your channel and your podcast. Anytime you need me back on, just give me a call, give me a ring, and then we'll get back on.
Most definitely. All right. I appreciate it, man. Have a good day.
You too.
Thank you for listening to the RBR Recap. Make sure to follow us on social media at RBR Recap and visit RBRRecap.com for the latest episodes.